I never thought that I was going to become a Muslim, but here I am now. I'm a student in the Islamic University in Medina. So my story begins when I'm 5 years old. I'm in my room, I'm having nightmares, I can't sleep, I'm just thinking about the afterlife, what's gonna happen after death. So I went to my mom, crying. And I grew up in Sweden in a secular family, and they didn't believe in anything particular. So the answer that I got when I came to my mom, and I was like, what's gonna happen to everyone that I love when I die? Like, what's gonna happen after death? And she was so surprised, but she gave me the standard answer that after death everything is gonna be black, nothing's gonna happen, so you will just not exist anymore. So she told me, focus on doing good deeds and being good in this life, and don't think about what's gonna happen after you die. But of course I couldn't accept that, so I came back again and again, and I got the same answers basically, and after a while I stopped asking. Fast forward, I'm 15 years old, I don't know anything about the higher power, purpose of life or whatever, and I was in a huge accident outside my house. I got like a roof on top of me and I almost suffocated. And I just remember yelling out, like I was just screaming out loud, calling for help, but I didn't mention a God or anything. I was not like, oh God help me, because I had no clue about like God. Everything was off the map. Like in Sweden they never talk about God or anything in like the public space, so I was just screaming out ah. And some neighbors, they basically, with the help of Allah, they saved my life. When I became 18, I finished high school, and I thought for myself, this can't be it. It must be something more to this life. I didn't see purpose. Like in the lifestyle that we had in Sweden, I didn't find purpose in it. Like everyone else seems to be fine, but I was not fine. I wanted something more. I wanted meaning. I wanted something to hold on to. So I did what a lot of Swedes do, and Scandinavians in general. I went to Thailand. So I quit my job and I went to Thailand for 6 months. Being over there, like I was on a far distance from back home, and I really had the time to read about religions. So being in Thailand, the majority are Buddhists, so I read about Buddhism. But when I dive into it, it didn't reconcile with me. I didn't find it logical, and I understood like, okay, if I'm gonna take this seriously, I better become a monk. But it didn't make any sense, like the things that they actually believe in the end. Although I like the values that they have, like being nice to people and so on, but it didn't make any sense, so I had to keep on looking. So when I came back to Sweden, after this period of time in Thailand, 6 months, I went straight to Norway. A lot of Swedes, they go to Norway just to work and come back to Sweden and study and so on, so I did that. So in 2013, I went to Norway. And Norway, of course, is a neighbor country, so the language is basically the same. It's just some small differences, but it was like being back home, just in a bigger city. I moved to the capital, Oslo, and I started reading about Judaism and Christianity and so on, but I didn't find it appealing. It was not logical, and I couldn't reconcile with what they believed in. But at the same time, this was my first encounter ever with Muslims. I have never seen a Muslim in real life. It was one guy, I heard that he didn't drink alcohol, so I became curious. So I went to him, and you know, I knew him as a good colleague, and so I asked him, so what's your religion? And he said, well, my religion is Islam. And I told him, can you tell me about your religion? I'm interested. And he said, well, if you want to know about Islam, you should read the Quran. So I was like, okay. And he was non-practicing at the time, and he didn't want to say anything wrong, so he just guided me to read the Quran. The first book that I read, though, it was a short biography of the Prophet Muhammad's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in this book, like on the second page, like they explained the basic concept of al-Islam, al-Tawheed. إفراد الله في العبادة, to worship Allah alone and not put anything besides Him in worship, and that Allah is the only one worthy of worship because He's our creator, sustainer, and our protector. I was so amazed about this belief system about only worshipping Allah alone, and it reconciled with my fitra, with my natural disposition to believe in one creator that you should worship alone. So after I understood that concept, I kept reading and I read about the Prophet's life and the Sahaba anhum, and I was so amazed, so I had no doubt. 9 days after I got my hands on this short book, I went back to Sweden, to my mother's house, and I told my mom, I sat her down and I said, "Mom, I'm gonna become a Muslim." And my lovely mom, supportive as she is, she said, "Of course, if that's what gonna make you happy, go for it." So I went up to my old room in my mom's house and I searched on Google how to become a Muslim, and I read in Google, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh," several times, and that's my story how I became a Muslim. So how did my family react when I became a Muslim? So my family is a secular family. They don't hold a specific religion, and usually they don't talk about the purpose of life and God and so on. They just live their lives and are good people in general. But I became a Muslim in 2014, and this year some Muslims with the same background as myself, being converts and so on, some of them, unfortunately, they went to Syria to go to war with ISIS and so on. So it was really, how to say, it was a difficult time, and I didn't live with my family. I lived in Norway and my family was in Sweden, so I was on a far distance, and they didn't really know so much about Islam, only what they've been told on news and Hollywood and the media narrative. So they were worried, of course, that I was going to be some kind of fanatic or anything like that. So I had to explain to them with the little knowledge that I had about the religion that Islam is against extremism and against the ideology of ISIS and so on. And I reassured them that I'm not going to Syria, I'm not going to travel there. So after a while they became calm about the situation, and I made sure to visit them often just to reassure them that everything was normal. I didn't become like a crazy guy or anything, and I was the same old me, just a better version 2.0. So yeah, that was the reaction of my family, and to this day they're supporting me and they buy halal meats when I'm going to visit. So I'm really grateful to have such a supporting family, because I know people that took their shahada and their families basically disowned them and didn't want anything to do with them, and that's a really hard test to go through. So